sign up, and then they get the recording afterwards. So it's
Okay.
pretty typical. So welcome. I am so glad you are here with me for From Numbers to Next Steps, which is a whole webinar on using assessments data to drive instruction. Today we're going to explore how to take the numbers you get in assessments, all that data, and turn it into some clear, actionable next steps that will hopefully support your students in the classroom. Okay. So I am Nancy Williams. I am a partner success manager here at ASSISTments, and I will be facilitating the next hour. I am a previous classroom teacher. I was a math teacher for about 20 years in different areas in the United States, Chicago, Columbus, Ohio, and DC. I've been an educational coach. I've been an academic dean, so I have some definite background. But I always continue to teach math, so it's my first love as an educator.
Okay.
All right. So there is and I will give this link to you. This is just a PDF of this slide deck. Let me send it on over. There you go.
Oh, you put in the chat?
Yep, I put it in the chat. So you can come along with me if you want. If you don't want to open it right now and just look at the screen, that's totally fine too. I will also, everybody who signs up for these gets the recording as well as the slides afterwards.
Okay.
So you'll get it then too, but it's there for right now if you do need it. The other thing is that I would normally say drop questions in the chat, but since it's just you and I, if you have questions along the way, just stop me and hey Nancy, and I'm happy to answer anything that you're wondering. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, um, I had a little warm up. I don't know how. Which animal best depicts you this week? And what makes you say that? What do you think, Mr. Kingston?
Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get a question.
What can you see the animals that I have up
Let me
on the
go
screen
back to the screen.
and zoom?
Yes, I'm seeing the animals.
Which one are you this week and why?
Ho ho. Maybe the lion.
Oh, what makes you say that?
Um, there's so many activities going on, and we have test week this week, and so I have to be like on the children them to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're kind
Sometimes, but sometimes I might be the lion, and then I might be the little chick.
of
You have to use all of these qualities when you're teaching these days.
Yes, for sure. I love it. I would say I'm number five. I'm definitely the duck that's just like running through trying to get it all done at once.
Yeah,
That's definitely me this week. And then about 10 o'clock, I'm number six. I'm that koala. I'm just done with the day. So thank you so much for doing that fun little activity with me. I love gives me a sense of where people are
yeah.
in the
Mm,
week. So I appreciate you. So just today's goals, we're going to walk through how to navigate assessments data reports, interpret key parts of the assignment report, as well as look at the class and student reports. And then we're going to consider different ways to customize assessments to respond to that data. So those customization options based on what that data shows. Okay. So, what challenges do you experience providing timely feedback and helpful feedback to your scholars? I know as a teacher myself, I definitely had trouble getting timely feedback to my students. So I often wanted to give feedback that was meaning and personalized, but I had limited time. I had a bunch of students. So it can be challenging work just to get them feedback quickly enough to intervene when it really matters. And I love this quote, effective feedback occurs during the learning while there's still time to act on it. And I think that's super important because
Yeah.
often as teachers, we get behind and we have stacks of papers.
Mhm.
So what are your challenges experiencing in your experience providing that timely and helpful feedback?
That's one of my struggles.
Yeah.
Because there's so many, the day is so short. You have so many things to get done in a day that sometimes it take me like a day or maybe a day, maybe 2 to 3 days, and that is not good.
Yeah. I totally agree. Those stacks of papers sometimes can take 3 or 4 days. And it's hard to balance like I need to move forward with the lesson, but I still need to grade these papers, and then they don't get the feedback on time.
Mhm.
You don't have like a clear sense of who needed support right in that moment. And these are definitely things that our data tools, right, are designed to support some of those challenges so we can get feedback to students very quickly. So we're going to look at how we do that today. So our agenda for today, here's where we are headed. We're going to look at the different data reports and assessments. Then we're going to look at interpreting that data and then customizing our lessons based on what we're seeing in assessments. And then we are going to wrap up. And so, again, since it's just you and I, please feel free to ask questions along the way. And since you are a 5-year user, I am guessing you know how to find these reports.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just for those who may be watching afterwards, if you are struggling, there are assignment reports, and this is how we would get to them. Let me go ahead and so we do have a little bit of a new look. I don't know if you saw that. But at this point in time, when you go into your class, you have these different assignments, and when you click on them, it takes you to a report. And unfortunately, that one did not have anybody started. But that is how you find it. So that will take you to the assignment report, and it will show you data that looks very much like this. So this is an assignment report on
Yeah.
proportional relationships. And when you click on that assignment, it takes you straight there. Okay. So, okay. I had this scavenger hunt up. But you tell me, do you want to do it or not?
You can try.
Okay. I love it. So I have a form and some links here. I'm gonna send those over to you in the chat. So here is the assignment report that we were just looking at. And then here is the scavenger hunt. Um, and I'm gonna set a timer. But when you are done, you can definitely just let me know. So it's a Google form. It has questions that get sort of more difficult as they go from like basic factual information to how would you maybe interpret this. And when you come back, we'll kind of talk about what was there and we'll show where it was in the report. And then we will go from there. So I'm going to go off camera so you don't think I'm like staring at you. But I will
Mhm.
be here. So let me know when you're done or when the 10 minutes up and we will come back. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should there be a show I button on the exercise here? 'Cause they're asking for that. I'm seeing that.
Say that again.
They're asking, they say click on let me get a question. They said click on the show height button.
Yep,
Unlock the names from the drop down. I the name was student.
I'm gonna show it to you right now.
Okay.
It is right here.
Okay. Let's see, standards.
All right. So that was 10 minutes. How'd you do?
Fine so far.
Okay.
I now get it at the and what? I now get a sees only four students.
What was that?
I think there's only four. No, these are the questions. Oh, these are the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you do on the questions? Did you get stuck on anything other than the show and hide?
Yes, I got stuck on that part.
Okay. Anything else?
And then there's no information to show how many students were there from the graph. Unless let me see, it showed 12 or something like that, or 18.
Yeah, the number of students.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's 17
17.
students.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know the red indicate wrong answers.
Yep,
Okay, and the orange represent a partial understanding of the problem,
correct.
and the green shows complete understanding.
Yep. So yeah, so the green definitely it means that they got that problem answer
Correct.
correct the
Yeah.
first time. And then yellow is they got it eventually. And then red is it took them more than three times to
Yeah.
get that answer. So they've gone to a zero. Um, I'm sorry, that would still be yellow because they'll get it eventually, but red is they took the answer immediately. And so that means they hit that answer button to give them the answer, and then it shows up red.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what that means. And then blue is those open response questions. So they need to be graded by the educator. That's why they show up blue.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you can see that there. So just kind of going over what we were looking at in this scavenger hunt. I had a question asking about class average. So you can see from the report, we have our students down our left-hand side here, and then everything up here it has to do with what the problem was, the percentage average on the problem average, and then if there's a common wrong answer, it's there as well. So if we were like asking what was the average on problem one, we would say 73%.
73. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the average score overall would be a 71 for the class. You can also see like who didn't complete the assignment
Yeah.
here. So we get that information. If they have this green check, they're done. The student L is at 40%. He or she did not quite get there. And then over here we have the time
Time
spent.
spent. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see who completed it the fastest, who maybe completed it a little too fast, so on and so forth, or who took their time and really dedicated some effort to it. The show high button that gave you a little bit of trouble is here. And the cool thing about this button, and that's what it was showing you, was that when you unclick the names, you now have a report without
Names.
any names on it. So it's a really great tool if you want to have conversations with your kids about the data, so they don't know who is which score. And the other thing it does, did you notice what else it does? It anonymizes them. Did you see what else it does?
At least give them the percentage of where they are.
Yeah, it gives them that percentage. It also randomizes them.
Or they're in order.
Yeah, they're no longer in order. So if the person whose last name was A that always knows they're number one, they're not number one anymore.
They can't identify themselves.
Exactly. So they're now anonymized and randomized, so you can have a really honest accountability conversation with them without anybody actually knowing how anybody else did. So it's a pretty cool feature. And then let's see. Um, the other thing to point out is that this view gives you the problem view, so you can see how your students did on each problem, but there's also a standards view.
Yeah.
So you can see how your students did based on standard. So it gives you all the standards that were aligned with those problems you assigned. So you can see how each student did based on that standard, and it tells you how many problems were associated with that standard. So that's a super cool tool if you're trying to figure out what standards maybe need to be reviewed or refreshed or have been mastered by most of the class. So the other thing I wanted to show, one of my final questions there is like, which problem would you review with the whole class? And you can actually sort these so you can see very quickly
Which,
which, yeah, like so problem one had a lot of hundreds, so it's probably not one that you might go over with the whole class, right?
but problem
Um,
three,
yeah. So yeah, so and then problem two, problem three, we're starting to get into more difficulty. So I definitely problem two might be one that you would go over, right, with the entire class again. Because we've only got 5 out of the 17 that were proficient immediately on that problem.
yeah.
So yeah, so super cool features in this assignment report. Okay. So from the assignment report, I really like to point out 4 kind of priority data points. They're your quickest path to really understanding what's happening in the classroom, to give you that information, to make those actionable next steps and very quickly. Each one's a little different. It gives you a little bit of different information, but all together they have like this full picture of what your students
Hello, Mr. John, are you still in the building?
where they're stuck, what they need to do next, so on and so forth. So the first one is definitely that class average. It's going to tell you immediately, like, was this question accessible? Was it challenging? Do I need to review as a whole class or can I move on, right? Then we have our problem average, which we saw pointed out there, and it
Mhm.
pinpoints exactly which problems, which concepts were the most challenging. So you can look at, like we did, maybe 1 or 2 problems we need to review that day. Um, and use those to maybe plan next warm up or a mini lesson or some type of intervention practice. And then common wrong answer, which is very cool.
Yeah.
Not sure if we had any. Let me look at that report again. Um, doesn't look like we had a common wrong answer, but it does show up here underneath if there was an answer that more than 3 students answered and it was incorrect. They gave the same wrong answer, which is a really cool tool. Um, so it really starts to give you those underlying like misconceptions, right? So you can start thinking about, well, as a class, why did we choose this answer?
Mhm.
Do I need to do a small group on it, or is it just a quick misconception, so that you can, turn that around very quickly? And then, of course, the student average, which is the student's performance. So you're looking at that individual kid. So you can see those patterns across students, who's ready to kind of go on, who needs some more support, who maybe needs to have a conversation about, hey, why did you hit show answer immediately, right? So then you can pull those small groups, adjust that pacing, celebrate like who's doing really well or who's improving over time. So it gives you that immediate read on how I differentiate between my kids.
Mhm.
Okay. So, now that we have looked, let's talk about kind of how to interpret the assignment report. And we talked a little bit about this as I was going over the 4 different data points there that I think are really important. So we're just going to look at each scenario and talk about maybe where I would look in the data report at one of these options here and which one would be the most sort of effective if I was
Mhm.
going to make decisions. So if I want to decide what needs to be reviewed with the whole class, what data point might I look at and why?
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Mr. Kingston, are you there?
I'm right here.
Okay.
Straight to. Maybe the frustration aspect that caused them to guess, choose answers to see before they do the actual work.
Yeah, so looking at like the data points that we see on our assignment report, so they're at the bottom, like there's a problem average score, there's a
Yeah.
student average score. From that report, like which one of these might you look at? Like if you wanted to decide what needs to be reviewed with the whole class, would I look at the problem average score? Would I look at the time spent?
I look at maybe time spent on the performance summary.
Okay, and what makes you say that?
That would give you because if you spend, for example, if you spend over like say 10 minutes on one problem, right? That problem may have a problem that they need that may need to be addressed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And that performance summary tells you very quickly, right? Let me show that real quick. 'Cause I didn't
Yeah.
for it. The performance summary is at the top here. You can see very quickly if there's a bar with a lot of red or with a lot of yellow, um, that's a
That,
problem where we maybe had some difficulty answering it. Whereas like
mhm.
with problem one, we see a lot of green, right? Problem 1B. So that may be one where we're not going to go over it with the whole class. So yeah, I definitely think those two are important. I would definitely maybe look at the problem average score as well. So if it's a low score on that problem, it may be something that I want to review with the whole class. Um, okay. So what about if we want to know which students are ready for independent practice and which need like one-on-one, small group reteaching? What might I look of these seven choices? What might I look like there?
I'm looking at the student average and even the time spent as well.
Yeah, I agree. So definitely that student average score. How are they doing across the board so you can
Yeah.
see if they're ready, or if you need to bring them into small groups to reduce those things. Um, and yeah, I definitely think the time spent every single time. If you have a student that is not doing well, but they only spent 30 seconds, like that's a conversation where you're saying, I can't tell what you know, right? Because you did it so quickly.
Yeah.
And this one kind of goes straight into that. Like you want to figure out which student put forth their best effort and which ones did not.
True.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely the time on this one, like I was just saying, the 30 seconds, if they spent on five problems, they're obviously not, either they are really well versed in that or they're just running through because they want to be done. The other thing that I would say here is these magenta chips, that red that comes up with no
Mhm.
attempts means they went immediately to that, give me the answer.
Yeah.
And so that can be one as well. Um, to say I did not give my best effort here. And then number four, the last one is just students were frustrated during or after an assignment, and you want them to understand like they're not by themselves. Other people were frustrated as well.
True.
So what might we look at then?
That would be the time spent and maybe the common wrong answer
Yeah.
and the summary, performance summary as well.
Yeah, I kind of think when I ask this question, I kind of think it's the whole report, right? That's why I keep going. Like, they can see that other students struggled, or that a lot of students answered the same common wrong answer, like that misconception
Mhm.
was there. It definitely can make them feel a little more like they're not alone. So sometimes showing that progress or the assignment report can be very, very helpful to again, have that accountability in class. So thank you for going through that with me. So with this, it's just a short like data conversation. When you're looking at that assignment report, how might the data points shape your next steps? What key data points would you discuss with your class, and what might that discussion look like? And how can you make these data points meaningful and motivating for your students, and what that might sound like? Do you have any thoughts on any of those?
No, well, at least all the 3 point bullet points are right in the sense that from the data, as you look at the data, the spread, you can determine exactly, well, okay, 1, 2, 3 students need to be seen one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then some of the, from the same data point, you can say, okay, this one can be advanced because they show clear understanding of the task. And
Right.
some might be lack of motivation because as you observe the class doing the assignment, you can see those who are motivated and those who are not. With that, you can have a conversation with them as to really what they need to do to be motivated. Because sometimes it's not that they don't know the problem, but it's like how to start. Okay, and when they get that push to start, they do the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think, looking at what that discussion might look like you're saying, like that motivation, making sure it's growth and it's growth oriented, right? Like
Yeah.
we're focusing on the learning with this report, not judgment. That's why it's anonymized. That's why you can't tell who's who. We're normalizing kind of making mistakes as the process of learning, and making data something that we learn from instead of being very stressed out about it. And so I think that definitely might be what like a discussion that I would have with my students would look like if I was looking at this data, and to say like, okay, we obviously all had problems with this one question.
Mhm.
What were the issues? You talk to me honestly, because again, it's not about judgment, it's about learning.
Yeah.
And I think that helps motivate them as well. So it's not about right or wrong. It's about what can we do with this going forward so we know what to practice next. Look how close you were. Let's build on that.
Mhm.
Instead of constantly saying, no, it's wrong, no, it's wrong, no, it's wrong. Our goal is to
So I don't
progress,
know.
not perfect, right? Were you saying something? I'm sorry.
I was saying, or they may say, okay, I don't know, I don't know what to do, and this behavior.
Yeah. 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 And I definitely think, when they see a report and it's like, oh, I did horribly, that becomes very much the regular behavior,
Mm.
right? Like, I don't know what to do because they don't want to see that repeatedly, so they just kind of give up. Whereas if you're doing it more of like a class discussion and saying like, this is information to help me support you, as opposed to like, oh, you got this wrong, this got this wrong, you got this wrong, that can
Yeah.
help them sort of not give up the next time. So, any other thoughts on that?
No, no, you're good so far.
Okay.
There.
Okay, so we have two other reports that we don't necessarily use as often, but are certainly very, very important. And I want to share those with you. So the first is the student report, and I'm going to show it to you on the platform as well. But it is a report that shows a student's patterns over time. So it's specific for one student, and it's great for certain situations. It's like a go-to report when you're going to have a one-to-one student or parent conversation. You want to talk about how they've done over a certain amount of time, if they're increasing or if they're struggling, or you want to make goals with that student or parent.
Okay, yeah.
Um, yeah, or if you're looking at a student that you need to plan intervention with, because you're constantly seeing it's something that you can take to their team and say, hey, we need to maybe start intervention with this student. And these are the topics that need to be addressed.
Mhm.
Or on the other end, developing enrichment activities if a student is really shining, right? They're thriving and they need more than what they're getting. It's good for that. And then just as a whole, seeing small groups, if those trends and patterns are the same across students, and then determining student growth towards a specific goal, like I was saying. So if you've made goals with students, you can track that growth through this report. Um, so yeah, so for me, my favorite usage is what I have here if you're planning for parent-teacher conferences. You want to show that student trend over times, their strengths, their gaps, their effort. across multiple assignments. So you can really tailor that conversation with their parents and then set goals. For me, like this is the ultimate use for this report. It's great for all those other things too, but I think this scenario is really, really helpful in that you have something to show parents without, you don't have to go through a whole folder or binder, but it's right there, and you can then have discussions about the performance. So let me show this to you on the, do I have it up already? I do. So this is the class report, and we're going to go over that as well. But you come here, when you go into your class, you go into whichever class you're looking at. And then instead of going to assignments, we come over here to reports. And my reports are in a specific term. So I'm going to select that. Excuse me. And then it gives me data for my class, but I want data for just student A. So now what I'm getting is just student A's data over a certain amount of assignments. So here we have, I think, 7 assignments that we're looking at. So you can see here, and then you can also see the class average. So this blue line up here that doesn't have any specific dots is where the class is. So you can also talk about how a student is performing based on their peers, as based compared to their peers, right? So it gives you very similar data, but specific to that student. Did they complete the assignment? What was their score? What was the class average? How much time did they spend? And the last time they actually looked at it. So, so definitely a good resource to look with parents at, so that you can really give that clear picture of what that student is doing in your class. The other report is the class report. I'm sorry, too far. And it is what we were looking at. It is to see those class-wide trends again around those multiple assignments. So if you're trying to identify those broad patterns, like maybe we're computing well, but we're not reasoning well. So this assignment where we were just computation is really strong, but when we had to apply that in reason, the next assignment was not as strong. You can see those broad patterns. You can also see which students are consistently outperforming, and which are regularly struggling, and kind of use that for grouping as well. And then it gives you a great, should I reteach or reinforce this skill, because you can see very quickly how all of them did on that one assignment. So for me, it's definitely something where if I have a problem like, okay, they did not do well on this one assignment. Well, is it that one assignment or is an overall big pattern? So for
Yeah.
specifically like word problems, did they have word problem issues on this one assignment? And that's probably telling me that it's the actual skill that they're struggling with, or are they having word problem issues across all of the assignments? And so then I can make those informed decisions about my next steps. Do I need to go back and we need to do word problems repeatedly? Or is it that one skill that they're struggling with? So this is in the same place, except instead of choosing a student, you're just in a class report. So very much like the assignment report, it's set up very similarly with our students down our left-hand side, and an overall class average up at the top. And then it gives each assignment the completion rate and the overall average, as well as each student's score. So it's easy to look down the columns and be able to see who is doing well on that one assignment, or look across and see who may be struggling across the board or who may be doing well across the board. So it's super easy. Like this person, it's 100%, 83, 100%, they're doing very well. This person up here definitely struggling more. So it makes it easy to see how the class is doing as a whole. If you ever have issues or questions about what all these symbols mean, there's a legend on all of these reports. So those half moons mean that it was incomplete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late submission.
Yes, late submission, that kind of thing. So there is, and there's one on each report. There's a legend so you can tell what all those symbols mean. Okay. All right. Back. Any questions for me
No
before?
question is good so far.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's just look. As we review, we're going to go through some differentiation options within assessments, and then actually we'll be wrapping up. So here we're going to go through like trying to actually address those student learning gaps. So we've gone through the data parts, right, where we've noticed these student gaps, we've noticed how they're doing, but how can we use assessments then to kind of address those student learning gaps? So, the first thing, and this is always one of the first things I teach educators when I'm working with them, is that you can assign to small groups. And I don't know if you've ever used this before, but you can differentiate within the assignments and only assign to 3 or 4 kids if you want to make that a small group as opposed to the whole class. And it's super easy when you go to find and assign. Let me do it from here. And let's say you're going to an assignment. I'm going to quickly pull one up. Ratios and rates. And let's say I'm going to assign these 8 problems. In that assign to class, those assign options, when you choose your class, it then gives you all of your students so that you can assign to just specific students that you want. So you would just untoggle this and then say, I want to give it to H, M, and I, and then only those students would get those 3 assignments. So it's something that you can use to differentiate in the classroom fairly quickly and easily, and then get that data on those 3 students very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's probably one of my favorite things. And then you can definitely mix and match. I don't know. Have you ever created problem sets before?
Yes.
Okay. So you've done that. Yeah, so you can customize problem sets within the system. It's
Mm,
pretty easy. Instead of hitting assign to class, you would add it to a problem set,
yeah.
whatever problems you want to assign. And then you can go to another assignment and add a couple questions from that and add it to the problem set. So you just hit add to the problem set and you choose either you're going to start a new one or you're going to add it to one that is existing, and
Okay.
then hit just save to that problem set. So it will now take those 5 problems and add it to that already existing problem set. So you can mix and match if you want to review multiple skills or multiple lessons in one way. It's definitely an easy way to do that. You can add it from any source that we have on there within the content library. The one thing I will say is that we have had this one change, and I should have showed it to you when I was there, that since we have the new landing page, it is now here in the builder. So I don't know if you remember, there used to be a My Problem Set button over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you have to hit the builder, and then you can either choose my problem sets from there, or you can go to my problem sets here. So it's still there, it still works the exact same. You just have to go to the builder button first now. Okay. And then you can choose however you would like to save those. Okay. And if you forget, like you said, you're going to get a PDF of this if you haven't already started it. The last thing is skill builders. Have you ever used skill builders?
Not a lot.
Okay. Yeah, so skill builders are one are definitely like a teacher favorite. And they are specific to provide like very focused mastery-based practice on one skill. So if you have a student that is struggling with one-step equations, right? It gives them a set of one-step equation problems. And
Mhm.
it's really great. It gives them 10 a day. They get a max of 10 attempts in one day. Once they get 3 correct answers in a row, within those 10, it will say they've mastered it. If they
Okay.
don't get 3 in a row correct, it will reset after 24 hours and they'll get a new set of 10 questions to try to go through and build that skill. And again, once they get those 3 in a row, it will say they've mastered it, or it may give it to them a third day if they haven't gotten those 3 in a row correct. And it is right on Find and Assign. So if you go to that, it's down towards the bottom here. It's Skill Builders. And let's say we're looking at 8th grade. It gives us those strands. So I can go into expressions and equations. Let's say they're having issues with evaluating perfect squares and cube roots. All you have to do is go into it and then hit Assign Skill Builder. It's not one where you have to go and, you know, how you choose the problems in other places.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you don't do that here. You just, excuse me, you just hit Assign and then Assign to class and choose who you want to assign it to. Again, you can do that very specific for
Mhm.
certain students who are having trouble with that skill. So it's, and you can see the questions just skill based, like what is the square root? So, really great tool for students who are maybe missing a skill they need to access that day's lesson. It can be used as a warm up, or if a student is like ahead of the class and they need some enrichment, they can do some skills that are maybe above grade level, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so which do you feel would be most relevant for you of the 3 that I just showed, that signing to small groups, that mixing matching in those problem sets, or those skill builders? Which one do you think you would feel most relevant using in your practice?
I think assign to small group and skill builders.
Yeah. What makes you say that?
You know your students,
Yeah.
and based on your knowledge of the student, then to because they're not all at the same level, right? And some you may need to build up. And I think the skill builder is where you can use to help them to achieve that confidence so they
Yeah.
can move on.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you know, they need to see their grade level skills. That's, you know, very equitable. But sometimes they need a little bit of differentiation because they've missed a skill. There's a gap there. And the
Yeah.
skill builders fill that very well. So I absolutely agree with you. And thank you for sharing that. Okay. So, any questions for me before we wrap up?
No question. This is my second important PD on assessment.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, just wrapping up, our goals for today um, was just looking at reading the data that we have in assessments, interpreting that data, and then considering how we can use it to customize assignments based on what you see and where your kids are performing. So my hope is that you're leaving here today with 1 or 2 things that maybe you can use as you go forward to help make instructional decisions from the data that we provide.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And the last thing is, I'm going to put this in the chat as well, but if you would be so kind to just take 1 minute and leave some feedback for me. We definitely look at feedback. I know sometimes it feels like nobody's ever going to look at this, but I look at it very quickly. There's the link. Definitely, we take it to heart to see what we can do better and what we need to improve on or what we're already doing well so we can keep that. I really appreciate you being here and being a great sport about being the only one here and interacting with me. I really, really appreciate it. You were a lot of fun.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I, I so appreciate it.